Our show fan, Steve, was passing around a copy of The Eye of the World that he was having everybody sign, which was really fun. He's like, I love your show. And I'm like, whose show? Mine? People watch my show? Are you kidding me?
I had such a blast at the Tower of London event. It was ridiculous in so many ways. Like the Twitch event was hosted by people who were huge Watt fans, but clearly had never heard of the Wheel of Time before. But do you know what? Like, the people who were there who were the real Wheel of Time fans were the best. Like, so fucking good. It was just, everyone was having such a good time. So
yeah,
and the audience participation in the crowd was just so much fun. And I apologize so much. I was so loud, but I was drunk and I was excited.
I was at the one in Denver, and Josh from Black Tower Pod was there as well, and we caused a lot of ruckus. So I'm sure that other people were making commentary, but we were the loudest. So good job, Josh. So it was really fun to just like go up and down the line and like meet people. You might have seen our live, my live from the Denver premiere, and just being really excited. There was good energy. Everybody was super stoked, and then it did not disappoint. So today we're gonna take a little look at a spoiler-free version, and at the end we'll talk about some spoiler-y stuff, and we'll give you a good fair warning of when that's gonna happen. But let's go take a look at some things about the new premiere without spoilers that we thought about the new Wheel of Time premiere when we got to watch the first 2 episodes.
Alright, let's start with episode 1.
The Phantom Menace.
Episode 1. The Phantom Menace. So my overall review of like the first episode was, I had already seen a lot of parts from it.
Yeah.
I'd already seen
You had all
things,
those,
and there
those
was some
clips that you saw at Comic-Con.
Yeah. The way it started was unexpected.
Yeah. I agree.
And
I wasn't planning on that. I had planned on something completely different, and if you're actually a fan of this show, you can see what we thought was going to happen. And I guess that's a bit of a spoiler, but it's also, you deserve it if you watch this show.
Like, the whole audience was like,
yeah.
And it was such a great way to start it, because everyone just was like, oh.
Yes, I think that one, because we didn't really know what to expect yet, it was like the gaggiest. Like, there were a bunch of scenes in there that you were just like, no way. And it was, there was a lot of commentary going on in that first episode of me going like, leaning over and being like, and you know, Josh was sitting over here, we'd like look over and be like, no. And then Kylie from who waves at the wheel, she was my date, and we just sat holding hands like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
I was sat next to James from Wheel Up Time, and I had a guy sat here who was only on book 3 of the books. So that was like my thing, and I was like, I constantly just kept, every time something gaggy happened, I just kept smacking James in the side. Like, did you see that? Did you see that? And then to the other guy who I'm like, wasn't as familiar with, I was like, if you need me to switch off, just tell me. Just tell me. And he was like, no, I'm really enjoying your reactions.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the best part. Like, that's why premieres and like first night openings are so much fun, because you don't go to those unless you have the right energy for it. And I think the energy was good, and everybody, you know, when there was music, we were like stomping to the music. When there was something like really gaggy, we were like, oh my god, like all in unison. There were a few like really hardcore gagging moments where I was seriously gobsmacked about it. I just like fell out of my chair.
There were moments in episode 1 that I was just like, wait, what? no, oh my god, yes.
There were a few
There was so
cheesy
many of that.
moments too. There were a few times where I'm
There
just like,
was.
really, really like shot for shot remake of Lord of the Rings. Okay, I see what you're doing here, but it was just a few little things that I feel like it was just more of a nod.
I feel like there was a couple of moments where the dialogue felt quite cheesy and like OTT, and I was just like, okay, I'm able to laugh about it, but I could see it being off-putting to some people.
Yeah, they had to cram a lot of exposition into that first, even like 10 minutes. That it was just like, you have to explain.
The first episode felt so short.
It really did. And there was a lot in the first episode. There was a good half of a book in the first episode and, you know, kind of scattered around, but it's not chronological. So keep that in mind. It's not going to look the way the book does, and you guys need to calm down about it. But
do you know, I actually thought they did a very good job. There was a couple of like little changes, but I still felt like this was the Emansfield, this was the Two Rivers, this was the Eye of the World, this was Moraine Sedai arriving in the village, this was that. I didn't actually massively feel like it. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, there's a lot of changes. For episode 1, I didn't feel that much. I thought that there was, but maybe I was already prepared for those. But I felt it stayed very true to the books, and it felt like I was watching The Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I there were some changes that I was like, I kind of knew were coming, and I think that they made them. It served a greater purpose. I think it wasn't out of place for them to make those changes. Given the way that like the overall had changed a little bit. It's so hard to explain this without explaining it, but basically when there were changes, it was because there was like a global change that they had to make. And so like, you know, maybe they weren't in a particular place at a time, so they couldn't do it the way that it was in the book. And I was okay with that because you still got the spirit of it. You still got the general vibe. They just had to make them go from A to B a little bit differently. And I really think it was okay.
And I think they did a good job making me not quite sure about Moraine Sedai.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not quite sure if I am feeling you yet. Like, I'm not sure, do I trust you? Do I like you?
Yeah.
You seem a little bit cold, a little bit...
Everything feels very vague, and I think that's the way that the books should have been, even though you found out pretty early on what the result of the big question is. In the books, you pretty much know, like, before the end of the first book, who's who. But with this, basically, I had a couple of my coworkers watch the preview and the trailer, and one of them was like, I was like, what do you think of this girl? What do you think of this lady? I just paused it on a picture of Moraine. She's like, I think she's a bad guy. Like, she's got like evil witch vibes. And I was like, okay. So I'm really curious to see what people get from it, and people who don't already obsess over this. I'm kind of interested to see like where a novice would take this. And the big question that they kind of bring up in the first episode, if you didn't know what was going on, you would probably think something very different is going to happen in this series.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about episode 2 again, totally spoiler free.
Yes.
I felt like some of that cheesy dialogue that we had in episode 1 wasn't in episode 2.
Yeah,
like
there's a little bit, but it felt like, again, it was just, you have so much backstory and so much information that you have to cram in, and I feel like they figured out a way to do it that made it more organic than in the first episode, that they found a way to cram in a lot of backstory, and you still got the basic gist of it, because I couldn't remember that backstory very well, but the way that they explained it and the context, it took a short amount of time, but they got the point across, and you got a lot of information in that little bit. So I'm okay with that.
I felt like this one was the episode was a little bit grittier, and there was like moments. I felt more in episode 2 that I was doing.
Yeah, episode 1 was like, okay, this is Wheel of Time, we're here, and then episode 2 you're like, this is a lot. This is a lot. I was not prepared for some of the shit that they brought up in episode 2. Like, it really fucked me up. And I got fucked up in the first one over a couple things, so this tells you a lot.
There was things in that second one that I was just like, oh my fucking god. This is and when it like ended, I was just like, okay, but I need to see the next one like right now.
Yes, they definitely know the formula for giving you like a smash to black, and you're just like, what the fuck? But that is exactly what it's supposed to be, and then you know that you're just gonna be like, oh my god, I gotta watch the next one. So I'm really glad that they're giving us 3 because I cannot wait another week before I get to watch the other one.
I think a lot of people said in the crowd, in the audience that I was in, it was like when it ended they were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And they needed that like next bit, so that was kind of like quite telling that if you make it to episode 2, like if I'm talking, obviously us fans were going to watch it, but you know, someone who's maybe not a fan, who doesn't understand things, might be like turned off by things in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it to episode 2, I think you're going to be quite hooked in by episode 2.
I feel like
definitely felt like
that's how all shows are. Like, I never like the first episode of anything, and then after like, you know, a couple episodes, they're like, okay, I get this. You know, you watch like, I remember like 30 Rock being like that, and I'm like, you know, if I'm trying to show somebody this show, I'm like, don't watch the first episode. Well, you gotta watch it, but like, don't read too much into it. Like, don't base your opinion on that first episode.
Yeah,
because
I feel that way about Water and Shade. Like, don't watch the first episode.
Don't watch the first like year, because it's trash. When I say this show is trash, that's why.
Not a spoiler to say this. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I don't think it is. This is like, I'm going to talk about the title sequence because we didn't get a title sequence in episode 1.
No, but we got it in number 2, and it
soon too
made me number 2. I was so freaking excited about it. It, like,
I was shouting it.
It was so iconic. Like, I, you know, I'm not even a huge like Game of Thrones fan. Sorry, it's really windy, so if this audio is terrible, okay, it's calm down. I'm not a huge Game of Thrones fan, but they have an epic title sequence, and I feel like everything is going to be judged against that from now until time and all eternity. And this was Wheel of Time. Like, everything about it was just like, it fit so well, and it made so much sense. And it made me think of Weaves of the Wheel. Like, I'll give you that. Like, it was Weaves of the Wheel.
It really was.
It was
so
good.
We were like inspiring some things there.
I know.
Yeah, I felt that too. And you know what else? I for anyone who's interested, I think the title track was the Moraine Sedai one. It's like the one with the like.
I didn't think it was that
strings?
one. I thought it was the it's like the Web of Destiny. That one? I thought it was that one because I can't figure out which one it was either.
I thought it was Moraine Sedai. Like, I was listening to the soundtrack earlier, like trying to identify it.
Yeah.
And that was the one that I was like, no, I'm sure it's Moraine Sedai. And there's no words in the Moraine Sedai track either, so it.
I guess that's true. Yeah. But it was fun considering
we'll
we'd been listening to the soundtrack for a few days and then like hearing it, and I was like, okay, those songs that I didn't really like before, I'm like, okay, I can vibe with this. Like, this is actually contextual now, and it made a lot more sense. And I was like, this fits this like sequence when I hear this song. I can make sense of this. So I was very pleased. I was so happy. I like that. Nothing made me say, oh my god, it's real, until that. Like, everything was like, oh wow, and then like, you know, some of the stuff in episode 1, I was like, that is so cool, like that's exactly what I pictured. But nothing made me have those like teary-eyed, oh my god, this is real, this is the thing that I have been obsessed with for so many years. This is literally Wheel of Time on a show that I get to watch.
It's crazy that like title credits can do that, but yeah.
Yeah,
It was,
like a deep emotional response to this. It was so cool.
yeah. I was screaming, I was flinging my arms, I was stimming like hardcore.
I like slid out of my chair, like flopped down onto the floor.
Yeah, I thought this one, that episode 2 was an improvement on some of the things I didn't enjoy in episode 1. But also, there was a couple of iffy CGI moments in episode 2 for me.
Yeah.
I was just like...
I know exactly which
oh,
ones you're talking about. I was like...
You know what I mean.
I was like...
Yeah.
And
it was
getting into Hobbit territory here.
It was a surprise because it was so good in episode 1.
Yeah, it seems like they kind of blew the budget on the scary shit in episode 1.
Yeah,
and they're like, we don't have anything else.
We used all the budget. I was just going to say, I think I had to remind myself that it's the first season of a TV show. It's not a blockbuster movie. It's not got this incredibly huge budget that other things have, and that budget is going to get higher. So yeah.
I mean, they've been renewed for season 3 already, and season 1 hasn't even come out. Like, they know that this is legit. All right. Yeah, so episode 1 was peeing my pants because it was finally here. Episode 2 was vomiting in my mouth a little bit for various reasons, and most of them were really good reasons. Like, some of the things that we saw just make you like, oh God, and some of them make you go like, oh God, and some of them make you go like, oh God. So yeah, there was some good emotions.
That was pretty much it.
That'll probably be good when we watch it together. Let's talk about that real quick. We're gonna be watching every episode the week it comes out. Yeah. Starting this week, we will start with episode 3 because we're already recapping 1 and 2. But we'll watch it together. We will react together, and then we will have a little wine and dine wheel of wine to discuss and rate the episode that we had just watched. It'll be fun to watch it with you because I've waited so long and we finally get to watch it together.
I think it's going to make a difference, like watching it with other people.
Yeah.
I can't stress enough how enjoyable it was to sit in a room of Wheel of Time fans, to hear people cheering when Moraine was channeling, or to hear people like going, oh, when Moraine was being a shady.
Which does happen. That's not a spoiler. You knew this from the books.
That's not a spoiler. It's just, there's so many moments that you go, there were so many like, oh, those different things, and it was just such a nice vibe to be around. So,
but we get to watch it together,
I'm looking forward to that.
And you get to listen to our ridiculous commentary as we go through and gag over this eleganza. So we'll hope you join.
Let's now talk a little bit about it with a few spoilers. So if you are someone who has already been to one of these early viewings, continue watching. If you're someone who's absolutely friggin' insane and chaotic and you just want to watch the world burn, by all means continue watching. But if you are someone who is waiting until Friday to sit and watch the episodes and enjoy them for the first time, please switch us off now. If you haven't already, which you probably already did. But
can I say it? Can I say it? Can I say it? There's butt stuff. There's butt. And guess whose butt it is? Guess whose butt you see? I'm not telling because I don't want it to be too spoilery, but you get to see some ass.
No, we can spoil this. Look, people have had their fair warning. It's up to you if you want to continue. We saw Daniel Henney's bare ass.
Yes, it was so good. And I feel like that is one of those scenes that uninitiated are gonna be like, oh, are they fucking? And it's like, no, it's better. He's her warder.
It was, to be fair, this was one of those cheesy dialogue moments for me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, how's the water for you, my darling? Like,
yeah. I'm like, I would talk like that to my warder, but I don't feel like Moraine, the Kyrianan, would actually talk to her order.
That's
that
not
way.
very. It's not very
Like-
Perrin at all.
Like I 100%
I
feel
was
like warders would have that relationship that you were like, I see into your soul on a regular basis. I don't have a problem with seeing you naked because I feel like I can take a platonic bath with my spouse and it's like normal and there's like no monkey business. It's just like, no, we're literally just like taking a bath. And I feel like your warder is kind of like the non-fucking aspect of your spouse. So yeah. Anyway.
It was a weird thing for me, was this like Moraine and Lan bath time, because I was simultaneously feeling really awkward about it
And aroused.
and also really aroused.
I
was
lost
just
track
like-
of anything after you saw Daniel Henney's butt. So
Oh,
that was the
and
only
it happened
nudity
so
though.
early on.
I mean, like, it was what I
That
wanted.
was-
It was the exact nudity that I wanted, but I would have really liked to see some titties, and I didn't. And you saw like 80% of a titty, but you didn't see the whole titty. And it was very much like the book. There was a little bit of fucking, and it was very much like the book, where it's like a fade to black situation, and then they just wake up naked, and you're like, okay, I guess they had sex. They're not like doing the dishes naked like some people.
There was very much a moment of like, was it good for you?
And she's like, no.
It was alright.
But I was wrong. I
take
was
it.
wrong when I thought that it was in, I thought that that scene would be in Shinar, and it wasn't. It was just in the wine spring. So
It was in the
I
wine
gotta
spring.
say, like, I loved, it was very feminist. It was very like, you knew that the moms were the bosses. You knew that this town is run by women, and the fighters were the women. Like, there was a scene in Winter Night, and it was just the moms, and they come out with their pitchforks, and they're like fucking up Trollocs, and I was like,
oh my god.
oh my god.
I know exactly which moment you did, because I literally, as she did it, I shouted over
Yes!
the crowd, Manetheren!
Yes, it was so good. It made me really happy. And then just like Egwene's arc and the beginning of like, you know, hey, I really want to follow my career. I really want to do this. I'm really good at it. But I also love you. And we've been together my whole life. And, you know, they're really like, I liked, I don't know. I'm not 100% on Rand. Like,
Really?
he has
totally different.
He has a lot of no. I liked his dynamic with Moraine. Like, with Moraine, he was so good because it is exactly what you see later. And it was, I don't trust you. What the fuck is this? It wasn't just like, oh, hi friend, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with you, random stranger.
Yeah.
And then, but his interactions with Egwene, they felt like a little bit forced, and I couldn't tell if that was because I don't know how to read social situations, or if it was like truly like just that they were awkward and didn't have the best chemistry, or if it was because they were acting like, oh, we're fighting or we're having an argument. It was weird. It didn't quite, like, Rand himself was fine. Egwene was fantastic. But them together, I didn't really see them, like, together, which I suppose is good because they don't end up together anyway. But I didn't know about it. That was a little bit weird for me.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree. I think it's one of those bits that I felt was a little bit cheesy in places, was the two of them. I didn't really feel it. It kind of felt like a Luke and Leia situation, like, don't kiss her, she's your sister.
Yeah, that's kind of how I
know,
felt. It was just like, and it wasn't
They were
even I know
siblings,
what's
you
going
sick
on.
fuck.
Yeah, I didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
I knew what was going on, and I knew what was going to happen, but I was still like, I don't really want them to end up together. But
I didn't really feel it. Yeah.
speaking of young love, though, can I just say that I want Layla Ibarra to sit on my face? Like,
she's gorgeous.
I was just astounded how fucking hot she was. Like, she was so beautiful, and her hair and her earrings, and she's pounding metal, and she's the boss. And then Perrin comes up, he's like, I love you. And I'm just like, get out of my way, she's mine. She's so gorgeous. I was not sure about her.
So if you're one of the people that, you know, is watching the spoilers even though you haven't seen anything, Layla is Perrin's wife. Actually, do you know what? This isn't really something, and it goes as well in the books as well. It's not really specified that people are married; they are just together.
Yeah, they're just fucking.
You know, there are different types of like. It could be that. I mean, it was never like that's his wife so much as
they were just
like,
together.
They lived together. That's their.
Well, I think
partnership.
so because I mean he was
Rand
wearing
and
a ring.
Egwene aren't married, and they were still fucking.
No, and I loved that Egwene's parents are like my parents, and that they were just like, "Hey, you guys have fun. Use a condom. Bye." Like it was just so natural. They're like, "Oh, we'll let you guys do the dishes," and they're like, "We know what they're getting up to. She's a woman now." But it was like, I really appreciated that because it was just there was nothing weird about it. They're just fucking. So I loved it, and I do think that Perrin and Layla were actually married though. A, because of the name.
Okay.
B, because he wore a wedding, like he wore a ring, and I think they made a point of like showing that, like they showed it a couple of times, like him kind of playing with it, and then she would like when she was like grabbing his pinky, like they really made a point of like this is a wedding band. So,
okay.
And I know that's not like a Two Rivers thing, but it's a general thing.
Yeah.
So
it's a general thing that people will pick up on and understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, Layla does not make it past Winter Night.
We should save that. We should save. I mean, we knew that she was gonna die because there's no Layla Ibarra in the series. Like, there's no place for her. But I think you guys just need to see what happens. You just need to see it.
Yeah.
We're gonna save that for you because it was.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
So
it was better than I expected. It was.
I don't like that trope of I'm gonna kill off
Yeah.
this guy's wife just to give him some emotional depth, but I still am not a fan. I don't think they really needed it, but the way that they did it was very, very well done. So if you need to do it that way, I think that it's the way to do it.
Speaking of emotional depth, we really need to speak about Matt.
I miss Barney so much already.
It was
so good.
He was killing me. Every fucking time I was just like, I can't take it.
I'm really glad they made him a poor. Like, they made him poor and they made his parents drunks. And he was just, you know, I need to protect my little sisters. And I think that's where those people got the idea that he's a single dad. Because, I mean,
yeah. It's good to see these people were paying attention. Even though it was like many times he said, "Where are my sisters? Where are the girls?
I know.
Where are my sisters?" You know.
Yeah. So like that was all he cared about. He just wanted them to have a good night. He just wants to support his family, but he's also, you know, he's a product of his environment and he's got some bad habits, and that's some generational trauma right there. And I am really glad that they made him a drunk. Like, they made his family like poor, and it gives more meaning to him stealing the dagger. Because if you're rich,
why he would be like that.
Yeah, if you're rich, why the hell would you do it? Except for that you're just an asshole. But this is like, oh, you need to do this because this is a year's wages for your family.
Yeah, it's like, why would you risk a curse if you don't need to?
Yeah,
there's a reason that you had to do that, and I think this gives him a more solid foundation for why he does that, why he likes to gamble, why he enjoys these like finer things, is because he never really necessarily got to experience that growing up.
And I loved that.
So
I loved that
he was the best actor in it.
Oh,
I just
he was
put that out there.
far and away the best. Like, he was just so good. And he just had so much soul, and I really loved that Rand and Perrin like took care of him. But it was like in a friendly way, like, hey, you know, we're your buddies. We just, you know, we know you're not gonna take charity, so take it for your sisters. Just buy him a lantern. And I really liked that was part of their Beltane celebration, was like lighting lanterns. And I was like, that's really sweet. Like, you're thinking of the old. I really loved that.
The Beltane kind of had this like more All Saints.
Yeah, it was like a Day of the Dead,
Like
and
we're thinking
I mean,
of the Day of the Dead.
yeah, and I live in New Mexico. I'm married to a Mexican. We just had Day of the Dead, and thinking of the people you lost and putting something out for them to bring them back. And I lost somebody very important to me this year, and it was really special. It was really like, okay, this is really nice that you're bringing back with something that people can connect to too, like. And then also just that hey, we're bringing you back, but we're also gonna join you soon, because things gonna get fucked up.
Yeah, Trollocs. The Trollocs looked fucking.
Okay,
they were very good.
The Trollocs and the Murdral were basically Voldemort. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to hate them. And the Trollocs we've already seen. They look really good. They weren't too hokey.
There wasn't a lot of Murdral though.
No,
that's the thing.
I thought it
was going to be.
Yeah, I thought we were going to see more of it, but it was. That was one of the scenes that I was like, "Are you serious?" Okay, so when Podam Fane comes in, and they're like, Gandalf, like all the little kids run in, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake! And then when they're crossing the ferry, and you hear like the Nazgul scream, and I'm like, fuck's sake, guys, really? Like, really?
Yeah.
That kind of irritated me. So the baddies we've talked about, and they were really satisfying. They were really cool. I liked that the actors, I think, made it scarier than they were. Because, like, I mean, they're just people in big suits. Like, yes, they're weird looking, but they're not scary. What terrified me was the fucking white cloaks. That was horrifying. Episode 2, right off the bat, just fucked up. I'm gonna save that for you guys too, because it is so fucked up. Like, you think it's like, oh yeah, they're white cloaks, they're just terrible anyway. This was nauseating, and they did such a good job. And then later on, you see the white cloaks again. Yeah, Valda was fucking nightmare. And then you see him with Bornhald, and it's like, oh wow, that's some tension. That's going to be interesting. Like, they already building to it, and you didn't even see them that long, but you know that these are the real bad guys. Like, Trollocs can't help what they are, but these guys can, and they are bad.
It's very interesting to me that there was not, the white cloaks are not a particularly interesting element in the books.
No.
Like, sometimes it's just like, oh, you again. Like, some of them can be okay, but like, but right off the bat, I just felt like they were probably the most interesting element of the 2 episodes that we watched, and I was just like, I want more of this.
I loved that dynamic. Like, it was so awful in the best way. Like, when we talked earlier about things that made me throw up in my mouth, that was one of them. Like, yeah, we're saving that. You guys need to just watch it and then comment when you see it, because you will gag, literally, because it's nauseating.
It was so fucking
it was metal. It was so metal.
So let's talk a little bit quickly, maybe just finally, about Shadowlogoth, because that is where they end up in episode 2, and it's where sort of the end of episode 2 is based in.
Yeah.
There was a couple of...
It was cool, but it was also like, there were parts that I was like, yes, and then there were parts that were like kind of hokey. The part where she explained about Manetheren, when they were just like singing, and then she like tells them the full story. I think that they did that really well, because they put a lot of information in that.
That was really good.
And then it tied them into Shadowlogoth, and that was really good. And that they were talking about it before, and they're like, Maureen's like, absolutely not. We are not going into the mines of Moria. And Strider's like, nope, we shouldn't. And Gandalf's like, yeah, oh wait, it's another shot-for-shot remake of Lord of the Rings again. But, and then they end up going, because Maureen's like passed out, and Lan feels sheepish. She's like, you killed us all. But I was not super impressed. I also didn't like that they killed the horse. That upset me.
The CGI on it was a little bit...
It was cheesy. It was...
Especially, they made such a big deal about how, they did all of this for Shadowlogoth just for like these 5 minutes, and it's going to be so amazing, and it's like mind-blowing. And I was like...
it was cool. Like I was like, okay, I can
cool,
see
but
it. It just, I feel like
it had a few moments.
Do you remember, I don't know if you've seen this episode, but there was an episode of Doctor Who where they're in the library and the Vashta Nerada come, and that fucked me up. Like, that was scary, and that was scarier than Shatter Logoth. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, because that
It
was
could've
like
been-
really menacing. And this was just like, it kind of reminded me in The Day After Tomorrow, where it's like literal frost chasing them. It's like, oh, the cold is coming, we better run. It's like, okay.
Well, final thoughts. We still haven't seen Egwene with the colours. We thought we were getting a women's circle thing.
I'm thinking more and more that those scenes in that pool, like we just saw a tiny little scene in that pool of Maureen and Nynaeve talking. And Nynaeve said, like, this is a sacred place and it's an honor to clean it. And it was like, I know that there's going to be some significance to it. And so I'm thinking more and more that it's either the accepted test or it's the world of dreams. Because I can see that. I could see Nynaeve in there, and, you know, we saw that little preview of her in that pool with a Trolloc chasing her. So I'm thinking more and more that that's just like the accepted test.
Yeah.
Or something similar.
We're gonna find out. I mean, we get 3 episodes on Friday, and
Yes.
it's so exciting. I mean,
3 hours of binging and fapping. Let's do it.
so
I leaned over,
apparently-
and afterwards I leaned over and I go, Josh, how many times did you finish? And he's like, the books? Like 6? And I was like, this is me, dude. This is me. How many times did you finish? And he's like, oh, yeah, 6. I was like, thank you.
Water and Shade asking the real questions.
These are the right
2020.
questions to ask. I did 9.
Okay, so join us at the weekend for our Wheel of Time reaction, the Wheel of Wine, as in drinking, and then join us midweek for the Wheel of Wine with a H, where we critique the show and give it our honest
Water and shade
Shadho
treatment.
reviews, and join us for our very special rankings as well, and how we rate everything's going to be a real treat. Hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching.